we're here, and we're so grateful to be here. So my name is Vicki Gallen Clark, and yes, I work for the Blue Hills Civic Association, but the most important thing that I want you to take away today is that I'm a parent, I'm a grandparent, I'm a resident of this neighborhood, living right around the corner, and I am so vested in this community.
And good evening, I'm Dr. Carol Burks. I'm the Chief of Staff of Hartford Public Schools, and I want to welcome you here this evening. We are so excited that you are here, and there's so much energy and passion about the Weaver Project, and our focus tonight will be to cover a few objectives. Ms. Vicki, we're doing tag team. We're both co-chairs of this project, so I love the opportunity when we get to present together. So Ms. Vicki will give us the highlights of our evening.
Well, before I go on, I just want to let you know that this is definitely a community-led process. The fact that you're here tonight shows that this is for and about the community. And when I say community-led, we are grateful to the Hartford Public
Schools.
Hi. My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
I just want to let you know that this is definitely a community-led process. The fact that you're here tonight shows that this is for and about the community. And when I say community-led, we are grateful to the Hartford Public Schools, Dr. Burks, Dr. Torres, for this partnership. Is coming together, the community, residents, parents coming together with a shared vision. And that shared vision is to have a high-performing, quality high school. That's shared. Coming together as co-creators, coming together as co-decision makers. And may I be transparent?
Please.
Okay. Sometimes in the co-decision making, we may not agree on the how. We agree on the what, but not the how. But you know what I'm learning? I'm learning that conflict is good. Just turn to your neighbor and say, conflict is good.
Conflict is good.
Yes, it's good. And the reason why it's good, I mean, studies have proven this. The reason why it's good is that through the conflict, you can have constructive change and that you have even more creative ideas. So we may not always agree, but the end goal is still the same: quality high school, high-performing high school. So tonight, Dr. Burks will certainly introduce Dr. Torres in a little bit more. We'll have a wonderful presentation by Dr. Torres, our superintendent. And then there's going to be a time for questions and answers even before she goes. You're going to have a chance to learn more about our Weaver steering committees, our work groups. You're going to hear directly from them. You're going to actually hear from Dr. Cologne Rivas about the design of Weaver. And again, we're keeping all of this in mind for you so that you have a chance to have some dialogue with the presenters. So we're going to do all of that, again, with questions and answers intermingled.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Vicki. So I'm excited I have the distinguished pleasure to introduce my boss. So at this time, our superintendent, Dr. Torres Rodriguez, she's a proud graduate of Hartford Public Schools, Hartford High School, not Weaver, but Hartford High School. But she is committed, she's a change agent, and this evening she's going to talk a little bit about our goals moving forward to reimagine our district and the role that it will play, and Weaver is a part of that reimagining. And each of us are here because we believe in all of our students, and we have a vested interest in this school becoming one of the premier high schools in the city, in the state, in the country. And so I'm glad that you're here this evening. So at this time, I'll introduce and present my boss, Dr. Torres Rodriguez.
So I've been given instructions to stay here. Is that right, Stan, so you can capture everything?
Yes.
Okay. So good evening.
Good evening.
Good to see everyone. Ms. Vicki, you talked about conflict is good. I'm going to add that conflict might not feel good.
It might not.
However, it is healthy.
Yes.
very healthy. And you know that I'm here to give you what I call the aerial view, the balcony view. I'm going to ask that we take a few moments throughout this presentation so that we can go up and have the big picture as to the district model of excellence, what that means for the district as a whole, and what we hope to accomplish, which, by the way, it is in perfect alignment with what Ms. Vicki talked about, the fact that we too, at the district level, want to, at the end of this challenging, and I'm going to say conflicted, because it's going to be challenging for all of us, process, that we want the same thing, and that is high quality teaching and learning, and access to that for all of our students throughout the city. So not only for Weaver, yes, but for all of our students in Hartford. And so I'd like to thank everyone for having me here. Certainly to the Weaver Steering Committee, who has been working hard to plan and support the new Weaver High School. And I do appreciate the opportunity to frame for you the district model of excellence, which is a plan to restructure and reimagine our district so that we can educate all of our students in the best way possible. And while we are fortunate that we have financing, right, and construction for Weaver, and that is well underway, the development of Weaver sits within a larger context, right? It's a larger redesign effort, and I thought that it would be good timing, if you will, to start bringing those two together, given that, you know, when we talk about pathways, which is, by the way, something that has come up in our engagement with our community and several constituents, you know, Weaver is at the center of that. And so I don't want us to continue having conversations without being part of the larger picture, because Weaver sits at the center of that. So I'm glad to be here moving forward, so that we can not only look at it, right, through only one lens, but the larger lens. So the district model for excellence, you know, the commitment is, again, to create a model district, and the schools that remain, and I'm gonna say that again, schools that remain, because I'm not going to, right, pretend, we cannot pretend what's to come in the near future, right? We know that schools will consolidate, and we know that we have to close schools. And so what matters now is as to how we're going to do that. And so the district model for excellence has a planning process that is designed to do three things. To identify our current needs and our resources. And when I talk about resources, I'm referencing time, money, people, facilities, right? Those are all resources. Another element of the planning process is to identify the priorities of our community, to identify what you all believe must remain, regardless, right, of the programs that exist. We want to know what you as our community believes that is important in the process of teaching and learning, and educating our students to make sure that they remain and come back to be productive members of our community. And third, the planning process is going to offer different ways in which the district can be reimagined. Now, I am going to, in a few minutes, share some of the findings throughout this process. We are in the middle of the data collecting process, but we already have some emerging findings that I'd ask the Weaver Steering Committee to think through after you hear the findings, to see, you know, if there's alignment with what you all have discovered, if you will, throughout your process as well. So throughout this process, we are not only going to make decisions based on only finances or only facilities. We have to take all of those pieces and put them together to make informed decisions. Because we all know that at the end of the day, we also want to make sure that we have viable neighborhoods, right? And sustainability in our programming. And so an overview of the process and where we are now, we are in the input and data gathering phase. And after this phase, which is going to culminate in a couple of weeks, we're going to pivot to the feedback phase. And that will entail sharing with the board and with our community some of the findings that thus far our consultant has identified for us. Moving after the feedback phase, there is a decision-making phase, and of course, that decision-making sits with our board. I will be making recommendations to the board on different opportunities. The board will also have opportunities to engage with the community and hear from the community as to their thinking. And of course, there is the timeline calls for a board vote in January, which then pivots to what I'm calling the implementation phase, which as I think about the work of the Weaver Steering Committee, it's a lot of the work that has happened in the Weaver Steering Committee. There's a lot of design thinking, there's a lot of brainstorming, and so that also has to happen for any of the other transitions that we decide as part of the larger process and larger model for the school and for the district. I want to talk about the context. I always think about what I call a backdrop, and that's just all of the other issues that we at Hartford Public Schools have to think through. And we know that we have deep needs in terms of our students as learners. We know that we have a great number of students with learning needs, English language needs, emotional support needs, and so we have to develop a network of schools that is equipped to meet the needs of all of our learners, right? To meet our students where they are. We also know that we've had persistently low student performance, right? We talked about, we used the word transparency, and so we're gonna call it like it is, right? We have had low achievement. And so I don't know about all of you, but that has to be at the forefront of the conversation, right? We have to hold the district, ourselves, together accountable for making sure that our students can perform at high levels academically. And so at the end of this whole process, the program, the programmatic designs that we have must ensure that that is the ultimate goal for our students in terms of academic achievement. And we also have another challenge, and that is the declining enrollment. We know that we have to adjust the structures in our schools so that we can retain families. We want to make sure that we have pathways for our students. Our families have told us, I'm not sure what it is long-term in terms of a pathway for our students. And so we have to think through all of that. So these become the backdrop of our decision-making as well. And so with input from our schools, from our families, our community, certainly from our board as well over the past couple of months, we have established guiding principles that will frame the proposals that are presented to the board. And so I'm just going to talk briefly about the principles. And this one came up over and over again at all of the engagement opportunities that we had. And that's around great teaching and learning for every school. We need to strengthen the curriculum and the standards across all of our schools. We know that right now, we have some schools that implement the standards to fidelity, other schools that need support doing that. We know that some schools are performing higher than others. What we heard is we want to have that across the system. All of our schools, we want to reduce this variance that exists and have high quality teaching and learning, and our students performing at higher levels at all of our schools. And so great teaching and learning in every school was one of the principles that emerged. A second principle is safe and equitable access to great schools and pathways. Our families want and know that there's an issue of pathways that has been in question over and over again. And so I know that as a Weaver Steering Committee, that's something that has come up for you over and over again. And so now we have to make sure that that's part of the larger district vision. I just reviewed that one, the safe and equitable access. The other one, which also aligns to the work that you're doing in the committee, is around expanded family and community partnerships. We know that we have so many resources, and I didn't include that slide here, but we do have a slide that I'll share. I'll get to you, Vicki, and the committee in a couple of days. But the slide shows the amount of community-based resources in the city. I would say an enormous amount, and I will be able to quantify that. Community youth resources. And so wondering is, right, if we have so many community youth-based resources, are they aligned to what our students need in our schools? Wondering, right? And if they're not, how could we go about aligning those as a result of this process, this district restructuring process? And that came up for us as one of the guiding principles. And I know that Weaver, you know, when you think about JMA and Kinsella and even High School Link, they currently have partnerships already working with the school. And so we know that our students and our families need the resources, and that's something that we're not willing to risk. We've heard over and over again, what's going to happen to the community-based resources? I myself have heard, Superintendent, we know that schools have to close, but what is going to happen to the community-based resources? People want to know, our families want to know that they will still have access to those community resources. And that has transformed into one of the guiding principles. And of course, another guiding principle is around fiscal sustainability. And what that means is that at the end of the day, we need to make sure that fiscally, our money, right, the resources are able to carry on for years to come. Right, that we don't just develop a plan and say, okay, we're going to be okay for 2 years. That's not good enough for our students. Because we know that achievement, in order to change a district and increase student achievement, we have to stay at it year after year after year. And so we need to make sure that the funding model that we have at the district can support those programs for the long term. So the district did engage education resource strategies to support the district in assessing our current state and helping us develop possible models. ERS is has national experience working with districts, actually much larger districts, to create and reorganize, if you will, and just have a lot of the data in different ways so that we can make decisions and recommendations. And so they have already identified initial implications that I wanted to share with you tonight. And there are 6 implications, and the first one is around our investment and redesign efforts must focus on our communities that are underserved. And this, of course, includes the Weaver neighborhood. A lot of the data that they have shared already with us points to the fact that there are limited access points around the Weaver community to high quality seats. And so making sure that we have a pathway that ends at Weaver that guarantees those access points for all of our students is important. A second implication is around our schools needing to be what I'm calling intentionally and strategically designed so that we can have structures that we know will produce outcomes. And by structures, I mean how it is that we structure what happens during the day in schools. We know that students that are behind in their achievement need additional supports. And so that requires specific scheduling. We know that teachers, in order to support students, teachers also need to develop their practice. So that means that teachers need time in the schedule to build their capacity. And we also know that teachers learn best when they're working with their peers. And they also learn best when they're doing it in the context of their students' performance. And so we have to create structures. We have to design the schools and the school day, not only for our students to have the added interventions that they need, but also for the adults. Because we ultimately want to make sure that not only do we build the capacity of our teachers and that we have excellent teaching happening every day, but we want to retain our teachers. And one way that we retain teachers is to invest in building their capacity. And so that has to be something that we think through when we're thinking about the design. A third implication that we have to think through is, again, the sustainability. That we have to make sure that all of our schools operate at scale and that there are clear pathways with collaboration for feeder schools and feeder patterns, right? We want to make sure that when our student leaves 5th grade, they're going to go into a middle school, that is going to make sense in terms of what it is that they're learning, that is then going to prepare them and align them for the receiving high school. And so all of those have design thinking implications to them. A fourth implication is that we will need an aggressive system for continuous school-based instructional improvement. So that's a long way of saying that we have to make sure that the programming in the school remains continuously improving. So we're talking about what happens every day in schools, right? There's teaching and learning that has to happen every day. In order for teaching and learning to happen every day, there has to be a curriculum, right? These are the guides that our teachers are going to use. And there are standards that say this is what each student should know and be able to do in each grade. And so we have to make sure that we have coaching for our teachers to do that, right? To develop and practice in that way. And also that we identify partnerships between schools, right? We want to limit, actually, if it were up to me, and it will be as we move forward, is we want to eliminate working in silos in our district. Not only in schools, right? We want our schools to have collaborative cultures because, by the way, we know that culture and climate in school, what teachers do, how teachers behave, how teachers interact, serves as the model for how our students, right, become learners. And so we have to make sure that we see those practices at the adult level as well. A fifth implication is around human capital policies, and that's in terms of our hiring practices. Want to make sure that we attract, we support, and we retain the best talented teachers, including teachers of color, right? We want to make sure that students also have access to people that they can relate to from a cultural perspective. And so that requires that we work in different ways. That requires that we, are ready, for example, when there are fairs at universities like other districts do, right? Other districts go there ready before the year is over, and they have contracts ready for teachers, right? And Hartford, at this point, is not able to do that. We don't have those structures yet. But if we want to be competitive, right, and we want to attract, those are some of the things that we have to do. And we have to look at policy around that. And then, again, committing to the people that we have so that we can also continue to elevate their practice. And a last implication here that is suggested for us to look at is to do an evaluation of our transportation and choice policies to the extent, right, that they limit equitable access for our students. We know that there are chef implications, and while in the perfect world, this district restructuring process would also be in alignment with the chef. And that process, it's not happening right like that, right? We at Hartford Public Schools are not the only ones that control that process. And so we still have to do our due diligence and analyze our data and see, around transportation. We know that that's a significant cost driver for us, the transportation cost. And so it is something that we have to consider as well. So now I'm going to bring it back to Weaver High and the redesign and restructuring process. The process, as you heard, has direct and clear connections and a lot of the overlap in the planning for the new Weaver High School project. You talked about high quality teaching and learning. I'm talking about equity of resources. We know that we want excellent curriculum. We want excellent staff, high quality partnerships, and clear pathways to support enrollment and sustainability. And so I don't see any difference in your process and our process, quite frankly. And so I wanted the opportunity to at least make those connections so that moving forward, we do so within the context of the larger plan. And that, I think there are some lessons learned from your process that can inform our process that we're going to pivot to in late January after the board makes a decision, right? We're going to pivot to doing some redesign work. And so I think that there are lessons learned from us, from your process. We do have several important dates over the coming months that I share with you here. And so, of course, we certainly look forward to your involvement and your feedback throughout the process. November 21st at our board meeting, it's part one of the district model. And I will be presenting to the board the first part of the model, which talks to those design principles, the structure, if you will, that we should consider in our schools and in our district moving forward. And then December 19th is part two, in which recommendations are going to be made to the board. In between those dates, there are a lot of engagement opportunities, and I can certainly forward to the committee all of those engagement events that are happening throughout the city. Again, I want to make sure that we are as transparent as possible. And I know that the dates are happening really fast, but we're confident that with an opportunity for voice and feedback, that we'll be able to get through this very challenging time for all of us. And want to remind you that, you know, at the end of this whole challenging and conflict process, do know that we share the commitment, and that is to making sure that all of our students in Hartford have access to high quality teaching and learning. And so I'm going to ask that we, district and community and school staff, take risks together, right? And take a risk to just go through and stand strong in the middle of the challenging decisions that we have to make. I know that, you know, school closures and consolidations, it's change, right? It's change for all of us, and it's going to require us at the district level also changing the way we practice, changing the way we're structured. And so it is change for all of us. And I'm here to let you know that I hear you and that I want to hear you. So please know that my team is at the ready to hear your voice. So thank you, and I'm going to hang around. Yeah, sure. Let me know what you're going to feel.
So what we're going to do, we're going to pause right now and take questions from you before Dr. Torres Rodriguez leaves. So what questions do you have? We don't have another mic, so if you do ask your question, I'll repeat it so everyone can hear, and then Dr. Rodriguez will answer. Questions?
There are lots of, by the way, there's lots of people here that I should acknowledge. Let's see, we have board members, Tiffany Glanville in the back, Joshua Hall. Great. Thank you all for being here as well. So we welcome your questions too.
Janice Castle in the back.
She's trying to hide.
Hiding is not allowed. I know that there are other presenters after me, so I don't know if it's I'll stick around. I do have a meeting at CCSU because I am trying to secure scholarships for our students, so
No questions?
That's sort of surprising.
one question. Young man.
Okay.
Vaughn has a question. No. Student voice. No.
I think I saw, yes.
Yes.
My name is Joy Clark. I live in the community. I work in the school system. My children went to Weaver High School. And I'm looking at it says Weaver High School steering committee. I haven't seen any parents on here or students. And I think students and parents should be part of this committee. So let me know if any of these names are students, because I haven't seen anything next to the names that says students or anything next to the name that says parent.
We're going to actually talk a little bit more about the steering committee, so thank you so much for that. We're going to go into a little bit more detail in a very few minutes about the steering committee. Thank you.
And I know that your question was only in reference to the steering committee, but I do want to mention that as part of the district model of excellence in that process, we have engaged students, and we actually have almost released to our students the opportunity really to engage their peers in giving us feedback around the district restructuring model. So I just wanted to reference that.
I am coming to your meeting. That's right. I will not forget you.
So specific questions regarding what Dr. Torres Rodriguez presented just now? Any other specific questions that you just have a burning desire to ask? All right then. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to move, yes, you can clap. Okay, we're going to move right along in our presentations and ask Dr. Colon Rivas to come up along with, we do have representation from Acatus? Okay. To come up and talk about the specific design of the Weaver High School. So, Dr. Colon.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Great. So I was taught that conflict is healthy, yes, and it should always exist.
That's right.
And let me say this to you, after meeting with all the steering committee members and learning and listening, we agree in more areas that we give ourselves credit for. We truly do. We have phenomenal conversations. For every single night that we met, and we talked about education, and we talked about the shared commitment, and we talked about quality access, and we talked about what is it that we want to do with this one particular project. So we do share high quality commitment, and conflict is healthy. It's really good. So I've been very fortunate to work with a very, an incredible group of architects and engineers. And tonight, among ourselves here, we have from Arcadis, Jack Buckus. We have Sal Salafia in the back. We also have Ken Mohart, who is going to be presenting in a couple of minutes. And Ken is going to walk us through the Weaver design on phases 1, 2, and 3. So you can actually have a much better understanding of how this project has evolved, what we're including in the different phases. For transparency, we only have 15 minutes, and we usually do this in at least a half hour, so our time, it's short and to the point, so I'm gonna let Ken Mohart come in and start the presentation. So thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Good evening. My name is Kemp Morhart. I'm with the SLAM Collaborative Architects, representing the team of SLAM and Amenta Emma. I'm going to run through the design for the Weaver High School. Phase 1 was the abatement and demolition phase, which is by and large complete. There's some remaining portion of that scope of work, but if anybody has passed by the site recently, they can know that that's...
I'm sorry.
Need to move it up?
So that people can maybe...
Is that better? Aha. That's better.
Over there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody that's gone by the site recently can attest to the fact that the demolition phase is largely over. This is the northern portion of the site plan, and I'm just going to go through it very quickly. Granby Street is here, Tower Avenue is right here, so the entrance to the site will remain in its existing location. We were able to, as part of that demolition phase, take a structural bay off the front of the building to give us more room to work with and develop a separate bus lane from the other vehicular drive aisle and actually get some additional parking along the southern edge of the building. I'm going to take this out. That might work better. Okay. As you come in, all of that vehicular circulation gets reconciled with a traffic circle at the end. On the eastern portion of the site, we're redeveloping the parking lot. This will be a new parent drop-off loop here, where you then exit back through, and there's another curb cut on the, a little bit further up on Granby Ave. Phase 2 of the project includes all of this site work that you see rendered in this view, renovation of the auditorium, renovation of the academic wing, which is approximately that footprint there. Phase 3 will be the field house renovations, which will be that piece. The southern portion of the site, which is part of the Phase 2 development, will include a new synthetic turf field, 4-sport field that will support football, lacrosse, field hockey, and soccer, as well as a new 8-lane synthetic track around the field, renovations to the home and visitor bleachers, as well as a new scoreboard. And it will also be completely ADA accessible, the entire site. I'm going to quickly go through the floor plans. As Dr. Torres Rodriguez mentioned, the programs that are coming together at the Weaver High School include Journalism and Media Academy, Kinsella, Performing Arts Magnet School, as well as High School Inc. The main entrance, this is the first floor, and the main entrance is right here. You enter into a main lobby. We have an administrative suite and a health suite along this side. Across the hall, one main corridor, and across the hall we have guidance and special ed. These yellow spaces are some specialty spaces for the journalism program. If anybody's been to the existing journalism school, you'll note that there is a radio station just inside the main entrance. We have a similar effect here, where you come in to the main lobby and there'll be the radio broadcast booth with the supporting spaces behind that. This space is the TV studio and control booth, and then there's a classroom associated with that suite of spaces that has a technology-rich connectivity to allow students to be in the classroom and observe what's going on in the TV studio, as well as students in the TV studio and see what's going on in the classroom. As Dr. Torres Rodriguez mentioned, with 3 programs coming together, there's an opportunity for many shared spaces among all the groups. Some of those are highlighted in this aqua color, so we have a chorus room here. We have a tech ed room or a wood shop that can support making sets for both JMA as well as Kinsella drama programs. Additionally, we have a strings or orchestra space here and a band room with some supporting spaces for that. And all of that has a proximity to the auditorium and main stage. The purple space here is a black box theater, and that is to support primarily the Kinsella program, but it also can be used as a shared resource among all schools. And that's about it on the first floor. The area in red will be redeveloped. That's currently showing the existing layout for the field house, and it's going to be redeveloped in Phase 3 to include new locker rooms and support spaces. Moving up to the second floor, we have 3 primary stairs in the building that go the full 4 floors, here, here, and here. This central stair is intended to be just that, as more of a central stair. And you come up to a little bit of an enlarged corridor just at the top of the stair, and you'll find that on all 3 floors up above. And then we still have that main corridor down the center of the building. As soon as you come up, we have a media center that overlooks the southern portion of the site. We have this faculty lounge, and then we have cafeteria space here with the kitchen and loading dock on the far end, which is where it is today. We're planning on reusing the loading dock in the existing location and renovating it there. The dark purple spaces are representing a lot of the specialty spaces for the Kinsella program. These are 2 dance studios along the back side of the building. This is the upper portion of the black box theater. We have a music theater space and a drama studio, as well as a costume studio. Also filling out this floor plate are a few additional smaller classrooms and more of a general classroom. One element you'll see on all 3 floors, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, is a faculty workspace as well as an administrative office. So there will be an administrative presence on every floor, which is an important thing to have. And finally, but not least, is a CAD lab, which is also a model building lab. It will also have a 3D printer in this location, which again is a shared space across the 3 programs. Third floor is primarily a classroom floor, but we also have another shared space of resources. Is a small 60, not so small, it's a 60-seat lecture space. We call it the theme-based learning lecture hall, and it's designed to support both face-forward lecture type activities as well as small group activities. As well as that, we have regular classrooms across the back, which could be either math, English, or social studies. We do have a general computer lab here, which is also a shared space. Visual arts space, we have a computer graphics arts lab, and then a more typical 2D, 3D wet art space with a support storage room and kiln room adjacent to it. 4 of the 6 science labs are on the south side on this floor, 2 more up on the 4th floor. And then we have our support spaces in the center for restrooms and so forth. And as I mentioned, the faculty workroom and administrative office. The 4th floor is similar to the 3rd floor, but the 4th floor is where the high school ink specialty spaces occur, which are highlighted in the magenta color. And then the balance of that floor is general classrooms and the 2 remaining science rooms. I'm just going to scroll through a few interior images. So this is an image of the main entrance lobby as you enter the school. Here's the main vestibule here. You enter, and that's WQTQ, and you can have a view into that space. We also have some electronic billboards along here that can showcase what's happening in the TV studio if things like that are happening. This is an image of inside the Black Box Theater. So you can get a sense that there's a portion of the theater that's 2 stories high. It's not cooperating. There we go. 2-story high space with seating on 2 sides. And we also have access directly into the main stage, which will help with set transport and so forth. Coming up in the building, this is the 2nd floor. This is the corridor where there's a small enlarged portion of the corridor. Beyond is the entrance to the cafeteria. This is the media center, and the dividing wall between the media center and the corridor is designed such that it can be opened up. A large portion of that wall could be opened up to allow students to go in and out and use this collaborative zone of the corridor as part of the media center, to have that informal gathering type space and coordination space or collaboration space. Or if the media center wants to be closed off and used as a more of a quiet classroom environment, that can happen as well. This is a shot inside the media center. You can see that corridor wall here. We also have some group work and group study alcoves. You can see the tables and chairs for more of a classroom environment, and then reading stacks throughout. A shot inside the cafeteria. This is an image for the dance studio on the back side of the building, the north side. We're able to get some nice windows up high in the space because we have a tall ceiling, yet still maintain enough wall space to have the mirrors across the full length of the studio. It's going to be a really dynamic space. This is a shot of the CAD lab. So we'll be able to support 24 students at CAD stations with drafting tables as well as computer-aided design. Toward the back of the space, there will be a modeling area that has storage for modeling materials and that 3D printer I mentioned. Moving up to the 3rd floor, this is the team-based lecture hall. So as I mentioned, it can support face-forward lecture type environment, but as you can see, there are these tightly cranked fixed desks that have loose chairs, and the loose chairs can then turn around and work with this group. So for example, this group of 4 can turn and work with the group of 4 behind them and support small group activity in the same space. Up at the 4th floor, this is the enlarged portion of the corridor on the 4th floor, looking into the Entrepreneurial and Insurance Lab, which is a specialty space of the high school league program. Just briefly looking at where Weaver was yesterday, where it is today, and where it will be in the near future. You can see we've made great strides in taking quite a bit of the structure down. We've actually, I don't think I mentioned in phase one, we took the 5th floor off the building, and then we also took some structural bays off the front of the building. This is an image looking from just coming in the entrance to from Granby Street of the new auditorium, the new entrance with the theme-based lecture hall up above. A little bit closer shot of the main entrance. So here's the main entrance lobby, or main entrance with the lobby beyond. This space is the media center up above that, and then this 2-story volume is the theme-based lecture hall above that. A little bit further down, just another shot of the main entrance looking back toward the auditorium. A little bit further down the line, this zone of the upper 2nd story is the cafeteria. Cafeteria will look over the southern portion of the site and to the fields beyond, so it'll be a very dynamic view. The administrative offices are all on the 1st floor here with windows to the exterior, and so they can monitor what's happening on the south part of the site. And there's also the Doc Hurley Fieldhouse entrance right here. This is a shot from the backside. The soccer field is right here, and we're developing a new drive aisle that will allow for material delivery to the scene shop, which is located just about here. And this is that black box theater element. So that's a quick overview of the building plans. Is there any questions?
There's some questions right here.
Okay.
My name's Jermaine, the local resident. When do you expect phase 2 to begin?
Phase 2 is underway, actually. It's been under construction for about 3 months, and it's planned to be complete by summer 2019.
There's another hand right there.
Currently, the radio station where it's at doesn't have great public access. What is the plan for the new high school as far as having public access to that radio station? After hours, I'm
I'm going to run back to the floor plans to answer that. So, in order to deal with that, this is a stairwell right here. It's a single flight of stairs from the 1st to the 2nd floor, and it has an exterior door. And so we're working with electronic security devices. We were able to allow someone to come in there and only get into this portion of the building to access those spaces on and off hours. I'll back up. So you would, in that scenario, you would probably park in this portion of the site. You would walk down this walk here, which this is a walk that doubles as a drive, a truck drive, and into that door right there. There's a walk that goes along the whole back side of the building.
So, we're talking about after hours. Will there be lights in that side of the building too for have access to that?
Yes, there are lights.
And are there censored lights, or are they going to be all on night?
There will be on a timer, and then they will have a motion detector. So if someone's supposed to come along, it would go on.
What about other security options? Is there going to be a camera back there as well,
There
or?
will be cameras around the entire perimeter. Yeah. Sure.
The visual art, you mentioned it was shared, but it's colored purple. And that's not, on the other slide, the aqua was the shared space, but the 6 is purple, so I was wondering why you said shared.
It is shared amongst all programs. It just happened to be colored a different color. It's not the same color purple as the Kinsella program colored spaces. It's probably just left over from the previous colorized plans, but they're a little bit deeper colored purple, so they are intended to be shared across all programs.
In our original planning, there was going to be a history room. Is that still in existence? History museum?
We do have a storage room down on the lower level for, it's located here in this plan. It's actually moved slightly in a more current plan, but it's a storage room for, we call it the Weaver Archives Room. That's what we're calling it. It's not intended to be a museum space, but it is a space to house those types of elements. And then we do have plenty of display around the building in the corridor systems to display memorabilia.
So that's a change, right?
That's the way it's been programmed from the start.
We have time for one more question. Is that you?
I guess I'll do it. I think to chime in on what Mr. Carr was mentioning about, with regards to Weaver, to put historical archives and to put historical materials in a room. I know he won't say it, but it's kind of disheartening. The community was looking for more of a celebration space like the original school had, and to find that it's not placed in this construction, this floor plan is a little bit disheartening. So to have our historical items tucked in the back, it's probably gonna you're gonna get a lot of pushback, even though I know it's already been approved. But again, the community was looking for a celebratory space for the longevity of history from MLK to this new building. So the fact that it's not there is kind of disheartening. I just want to put that out there.
The intent is that those elements are going to be displayed throughout the building. That's our understanding of how that those were to be displayed. We have large display cases here on the main in the Dr. Early entrance, as well as wall space. We have these 3 display cases here. There's another one down over on this portion, and then with the field house, which is still under design, we have a tremendous opportunity to display all those memorabilia items along the main corridors. Actually, it's not reflected here, but in the proposed design, we have corridors that go all the way around, so a loop corridor, so we've got more opportunities throughout that corridor system to put items on display. But our understanding was that in addition to that display, we also needed an area to store some things, and things may be moved in and around over time. That type of space is not currently in the design. That was never explained to us in that way, but we can have that conversation.
So there's always the opportunity that we're working with the steering committee and with the entire community to actually talk about this type of ask. And if that is what we're asking, then let's look at the space. I mean, there is plenty of space in this building that could actually serve that purpose. It's not what they built, because it's not what years ago they were asked to do, But now that we're moving into, this is what we have, and this is what we would like to have, absolutely. And Jason, to your point, this room is really to storage, the archives, okay? However, our chairman, Mr. Stalling, was very clear a couple meetings ago that he wanted to make sure that we have every single opportunity within the building to display Weaver artifacts, the history, and to make sure that the students are exposed, right? That we expose all that to our larger community. So I'm saying to you that we should make that as a point, Ms. Vicky, within, the feedback, and then we should bring it to the conversation within the committees, and then get it to where we need to get it.
That's a win-win for me.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Morehart. We have to move on because we still have quite a bit to cover in our agenda. And so someone was asking about the steering committees. And the steering committees, the intent of the steering committees was really to be composed of all stakeholders, parents, individuals from the corporate community, from the community. And I'm going to be very transparent again. From my understanding, and Dr. Burks, correct me if I'm wrong, we do not have students right now who are actively involved in the steering committee. Is that correct?
We asked the schools to identify individuals, however, we do not have students.
So at this present moment, we do not, to answer your question you were asking earlier about students. So that's something that we're striving for. We do have parents. It doesn't indicate that right now beside their names, but we do have parents on the steering committee. So these are individuals, various stakeholders on the steering committee right now. And so the intent really, there were 6 things that the steering committee was really charged to do. Number 1 was to ensure that the work from the work groups actually got done. And so there was an accountability process. I'm not going to go through all 6. Another important item or task was really to keep communication flowing to the community and then to the Hartford Public Schools and then to the Hartford Board of Education. And then the last thing is to make sure that there was some kind of coherent alignment with the school's plan. So those were some of the things that the steering committee is charged with. They do meet on a monthly basis. And I'm going to ask Donna Sodipo if she can come up right now and talk about what happens at these monthly meetings, specifically as it relates to the work groups. Donna?
Thank you, Ms. Vicky. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. First of all, I wanted to introduce myself, Donna Shadipo. I work with Connecticut Public Broadcasting Network, and we partner with the Journalism and Media Academy. And I have been long doing work in the Hartford community through OPP and other organizations, and this work is near and dear to me in terms of providing access and opportunities for our students and making sure that they have a rigorous academic experience. So with that said, I've joined the workforce to plan this meeting and forum tonight. And one thing that came up from our conversations was there was a previous group of committee members and steering committee members that worked on this process, starting and dating back to 2014. They had an instrumental meeting on November 6th of 2015. They came to the table, they identified subcommittees, they voiced things that were important to the community and they wanted to see within the school. So at this time, we wanted to just really share that that work didn't get lost, hopefully. And Mr. Carr, thank you so much for bringing up the museum. And that's exactly what these forums are for. So if something did get, a lot of moving pieces, that we can then put it on the table. If you're not able to join one of our work groups, that's what this is for, because we're taking copious notes and making sure that all voices are heard and vetted and represented. There were roughly 50 people involved in that process. And what we don't want you to do or think is that we have a new group of committee members and we're not taking into consideration the work that was done previously. So at this time, I'm not sure if anyone was on a previous committee and worked on anything regarding the build out of Weaver High School and the new campus. And if you were, if you could either just raise your hand if you were on one of those steering committees. Mr. Carr, thank you. Anyone else?
So we wanted to just give him a round of applause and thank you. And to others who were involved in that, and to just let you know the configuration may be different, but all of that work and labor that you put in is still with us. And you also have the opportunity to join us again and come and work with us on the steering committee. I want you, the community, to also know we have tough conversations. It isn't a vanity board or a vanity committee. We're really working with Achieve Hartford, Blue Hill Civic Association, and along with the Hartford Public Schools to make sure that we're pushing the agenda, and the agenda is your agenda. The agenda is to make sure that we have quality education for our students. We have a community that is engaged and feel a part of the school, and then we have something that is a beacon of academic and lifelong learning within the north end of Hartford. And I think that that's really the goal that we have every meeting, and the challenges. And we have a lot of checks and balances in this room that sit on the steering committee. And so I want you to know it is not a vanity steering committee, and you're welcome to join us. At this time, I wanted to just not only thank the committee meeting, former past steering committee members, I also wanted to bring up our chairs now, or representatives now, to give a quick 5-minute update of some of the work. Now, if any of these committees sound like something you want to get involved with further, we'll have sign-ups. You can see me. I was at the door. As you're leaving, just indicate. And then also there's a survey that's we handed out at the door. If you just indicate on that survey which committee you would like to be responsible or to get more information on, we will follow up with you directly. So at this time, I would love to call Ms. Abigail up, and she will give a brief report on the Family and Community Engagement Committee. Oh, Miss Diana's giving it, or she just, oh, you know what? So no problem, she just stepped out. So I will do, Jason, are you ready? No, Jason is, so we have 3 committees, just so you know while Jason's coming up: Family and Community Engagement, Student Learning Experiences, and School Climate and Culture. We had 8 originally in terms of committees. We consolidated them into the 3 so that we didn't lose the topics, we just merged them, so we had enough folks to actually dig in deep and do the deeper dives for the work for the design specs. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. I do not like public speaking, so take my hat off here. Okay, my name is Jason Farquharson, proud member of Weaver High School, graduation class of 1999. Weaver High School. One of my favorite teachers is currently in the building right now, Mr. Carr. Thank you. That young man helped me fall in love with photography, and I want to say thank you. So, again, my name is Jason, Weaver High School alum, part of the North Hartford Education Task Force. North Hartford Education Task Force is a group of individuals, residents, parents, grandparents who are focused on making sure that the North Hartford area is intact. The history of certain schools are intact, and we make sure that the parents and the students have the greatest assets going forward to make sure they have a great, strong educational future. So I just want to put that out there. So being a part of the student learning experience work group, it says we have a mission on here, but I don't see the mission. But in a nutshell, we want to make sure that the students who attend Weaver High School, no matter how they come in, they leave their school with the best education possible. One of our visions is to make sure that is to push the envelope. We all, if you're not aware, we all are aware of some sort of form of fashion, the benchmarks for Hartford Public Schools regarding what they deem to be a high school. And we saw them, and we said, not at Weaver High School. We want to make sure we push the boundaries, make sure that, I think the issue is, we have to make sure we have great kids from K through 12. And if we don't push them, we don't get a chance to see their full potential. In the SLE group, we want to make sure whether or not the student wants to go to college, they have the ability to go to college by graduating from Weaver High School. We want to make sure they are ready to hit the ground running if they want to be their own entrepreneurs or are drawing right into the workforce. So I think it's great that we have to be aware of the climate that we're in, and every student wants to go to college, but we want to make sure they have the opportunity and have all the sharpened tools necessary to do so. One of our concerns is making sure that the leader of Weaver High School has a strong support or is very supportive of their staff. So that's from any volunteers in the school, parents, as well as their students and their counselors. I know that the new term is not guidance counselor. I don't know what it is right now. School counselor. Thank you. See, things change. So we're going to make sure the leader of Weaver High School is in full effect and supporting of a vision of a unified building, and especially that the education components are strong, no matter what academies or components in the school, that the head individual of that school is forward-thinking and definitely thinks outside the box. What else I have here? So again, we're going to make sure that if anybody's interested in really getting their hands dirty with the ball, when involved in education, making sure we push the boundaries, involved in traveling to other schools and across the state that have similar programs, involved in neighborhood schools and magnet school programs to see how they went successfully, and making sure that we push the boundaries. And again, I've been in Hartford my whole entire life, and one of the most annoying phrases is Hartford has so much potential. It's just, they're right there. And Weaver is a school that's going to push them over the edge. I strongly believe in the SLE group that when parents from the neighborhood schools figure out what type of curriculum they're going to have, we're strongly pushing for a bridge program. Again, so no matter what situation they leave when they become out of junior high school, that we put them in the best position to be successful. Again, my name is Jason Farquharson, and thank you.
You did an awesome job. Thank you, sir. And then, Paul, our chair, comes in, but he just wanted you to speak, Jason. That's okay. And is Miss Abigail back? Yes, she is. Welcome. And then I also stand corrected. We do not have committees because we are working.
That's
so
right.
They are called work groups.
That's
right. So Jason, I also am standing to be corrected. There you go. Thank
Hello,
you.
everyone. Yes, they are work groups. We definitely roll up our sleeves and get down to the nitty-gritty of what is needed for our school system, and in particular, starting with Weaver, but we do want this model to go forward. And I was actually kind of gratified to hear that the superintendent is planning on using all of our groundwork going forward in the redesign and implementation for the rest of the school district. So it is gratifying to know that our hard work is not just for Weaver, it's actually going to be impactful for many more. That said, I first wanted to definitely say thank you to Hartford Public Schools and the Board of Education for the collaborative process and working with the families and communities. It's very, very important to all of us that our voice be heard. After all, if it wasn't for us, y'all wouldn't have a job. So that said, the new Weaver High School campus, our mission is that it will have one voice that will effectively and articulately share the vision and communicate the culture of the school's programs, plans, and curriculum. And our vision to make that mission happen is to create momentum, to build a strong family and community environment, to use social media to display the strengths of the community and family, to cultivate the highest level of home and school development that will successfully create a holistic environment for the family, the community, the school climate and culture, the whole learning experience. And that involves full involvement of families, students, community partners for a well-rounded academic, emotional, and social culture that enhances the arts, sciences, and sports. And most importantly, we feel, is that all teachers' practices and disciplines will be clear and concise to the family and to the community. Knowing that the challenges going forward are working in collaboration between the administration, the student, the faculty, the family, all those pieces fit like a nice little puzzle. And when one is not there, I don't know if anybody's ever put a puzzle together, but when there's that one little piece missing, oh, that's an aggravation. It just means that the whole picture is not complete. We want all of our students across the board, equitably, regardless of who they are, where they came from, or what they're doing, that they all have that whole experience. And briefly for myself, knowing that I'm going to be asking whoever could and would to join the Family and Community Work Group, I'm a 9-year resident of Hartford, Connecticut. I live on Bedford Street in the Promise Zone. It's not the most friendliest place, but let me tell you, it's taught me a lot. And I love Hartford. I've fallen in love with Hartford. I despised Connecticut for 20 years until I landed in Hartford. And I found a reason to love Connecticut and love Hartford. And that said, my passion has always been, from the time I was a little girl, in working with my fellow students. I was the teacher's pet only because I ran around helping everybody else get their work done. And that taught me something, that I knew that I would always work with children and I would always work with the youth. And the youth are our foundation. Without them, we have no future. We are going to need them to be our future leaders, our future citizens, our future community members, our future teachers. So without our students being at the very best of their potential, we have nothing, people. We need to do this, and we need to do this well.
Well said, both of you, Jason and Miss Abigail. And Miss Shoshana is our next speaker. And she equally is going to rock it out. Here you go, girl.
Pressure's on.
Yeah, I see the pressure is on. Ooh, guys. Yeah. Well, my name is Shoshana Stewart. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm a proud Weaver High School graduate, 2016, I believe, grade 2. So I am the co-chair of the Culture and Climate Committee. I want to thank the Hartford Public Schools for their open process and getting us involved in the redesign project for Weaver High School. That's very important that you guys involve us as community members as well as alumni. Our mission for the Culture and Climate Committee is to create one positive school culture across disciplines that parents and students can be proud of. Our work group envisions a school with one culture, under one leader or one leadership, that is unified all schools, mirrors the vision of the community, that values the community and pushes the community to high academic rigor. That's essential to our students' development. We know that colleges are very competitive. Getting into schools is very competitive. Our students have to be at that template to be able to move from high school to post-secondary education well and be able to graduate on time and not have to take those remedial classes. So that's a very priority to us. Leadership matters. They set the culture. So having a strong leader who's in Hartford and who is willing and wants to be at Weaver for the long run. Not someone that's there for 2 years or 5 years, but for the long run. Our work group is concerned about having 3 separate school codes, 3 separate budgets. We strive for equality and one mission and one vision, so that is a concern for us with those 3 items on the table right now. And we all know that this is hard work, but at the end of the day, we want a better school. And so to have a better school, we definitely need community continuous input. So I invite you to join our work group as well. We'll be outside afterwards, as others mentioned, to have you guys sign up. And thank you. Thank you so much. I thank all the volunteers to give the update. This is the energy within the work group. So, oh, I got it right. Work groups. I got it right. Miss Vicky is tough, boy. I'm telling you, she's looking at me too. But I would like everyone who is currently serving on a committee, or work group, if you can stand, please, so that if individuals have questions, they know. And then thank you for your service. Okay. Miss Vicky.
Thank you, Donna. And Donna did use an operative word, volunteers. All these folks are volunteering their time. Why? because they know our youth are worth it. So how do you get the information out? How do we make sure that you have a portal, you have a place where you can go and get all the updates? I'm going to invite Naisha McCauley to come up and talk about the Weaver 2019 website. Let's give her a round of applause.
Good evening. As Vicki just mentioned, we want to keep everyone informed, but we also want an avenue in which we can hear from the community as well. So I don't have the website to show you on a big screen, but you have something even better. Everybody is holding a phone in their hand right now. You've been texting and Facebooking already this evening. So just go on over to Weaver2019.com. Weaver2019.com. And this is the vehicle in which you will be receiving updates. The work groups that you just heard from, they meet monthly as well as the steering committee, and so you'll get updates on how they are working through the areas of focus for them. You'll be able to see when the meeting dates are on the website, but more importantly, I know it's hard coming out, particularly on a weeknight, to these meetings. If you want to stay updated, you can sign up on Weaver2019.com to stay informed. If you can't make a meeting, we will update you electronically. You know, if you want to receive that message by text, we can do that too. So we want to keep you informed, but it is also a venue for you to give us your feedback. You have the survey that we're asking you to complete tonight, but if there are other questions that you feel were not answered tonight, when you're out in the community and people are talking about Weaver, let them know that they can go to Weaver2019.com. Hartford is a small town at the end of the day, and everybody talks when we bump into each other at Walmart on Saturday. Tell them there is a way for them to be involved. This is not an exclusive process, it's a very inclusive process, and Weaver2019.com is your way in as well. If you can't make the meetings in the evening, or you just need to find out what's going on, you see the building construction happening on Granby Street, you want to know what's happening, no one's talking, get involved electronically. We definitely want you to give us your feedback all along the way. This is a process that we're going through to 2019, so there's a lot of meetings, lots of meetings, and so this is just one avenue for you to talk back to us, and we'll be talking to you.
If someone's not electronically savvy, how can they get the word out with a phone call? Who should they call?
Actual telephone number? Call Shoshana? Okay, we have a volunteer who said she's brave. Call Shoshana. Shoshana, you gonna give out your phone number? Okay. Call Blue Hills. Call Blue Hills. Okay. Call Blue Hills. And that number, Ms. Vicki can give you as well.
Thank you, Naisha. And we've actually, I think we've posted it already, our first job opportunity for the community that's associated with Weaver. So we will be posting job opportunities that are associated with this new construction. So you definitely want to really be in tune with the Weaver2019.com. So you've heard a lot from the different work groups. We don't want to close unless you have an opportunity to ask any questions. So if there are any questions for any of the work groups, for the building design, again, just feel free. Diana, how much time do we have? You're my timekeeper? Okay, yep, so we have time for a few questions. You've heard from the student learning experience work group, you've heard from the family and community, 15 minutes, family and community engagement, and then the school climate and culture work group, and about our website. Any burning questions that you have at this time? We have a very quiet group tonight.
I have one.
Yes.
For for the community, what's burning that shouldn't be forgotten? So was the museum, was one thing, was there something else that you did or didn't hear that we should take into consideration, and we don't miss it?
Something that we may have overlooked. What was it?
Pardon, ma'am? Are we missing anything? What didn't you hear, or something that you would like us to work on and bring up at the work group level?
Maybe I missed it, but I think I heard some of the programs or the schools that will be moving into Weaver. But what are the new programs apart from the schools that moving into Weaver? And I know some of those schools that moving back into Weaver is the program that they took out of Weaver. So what new programs coming into Weaver apart from those that are coming, they're going to bring back?
So I'm going to ask Dr. Burks to join me. So you know the three entities. You know Kinsella is going to be going in there, High School Inc., and Journalism and Media Academies. And your question sounds like, in addition to those names, what programs are going to be new? So that's what I heard you ask.
Good evening. What a great question at the critical juncture in this project. So as we know, we've had a few years of conversations about Weaver Strong, Great Bleed Green, we want one school, one principal, all those wonderful things that we've heard. And so we're in the process of designing the school. We're in the redesign of the education specifications. And we have an opportunity to, one, as I said in our previous meeting, that Kinsella, which is the magnet school, it is its own school, and that school will remain Kinsella. However, thank you. Remain Kinsella. Okay, thank you. Call a response here. All right. So, but additionally, because we've heard the community, and there may be an opportunity, and I said this in the last session, that the superintendent and the board, they're both willing to hear from the community as to what you think the program design you would like for it to be. So there's an opportunity to present your ideas, because we have to submit new design specifications to the state. So to answer your question, we've learned most recently that we have an opportunity to potentially secure additional state funding if we do make some modifications to the educational specifications. So to make that basic plain English, if we offer courses that are in the technical areas, things like, I hate to even put out something, because people say, she said we can have this, we can have that, so I'm not gonna go there. But things that students, when you think of things that using their hands and being more experiential in their learning, as opposed to just reading, writing, math, and those kind of traditional courses. So we have opportunity, if we embed that into the curriculum design of the school, that we'll receive additional state dollars. And we did not know that before, so the state asked us to submit a new proposal so that we may be considered for additional funding. So what we're going to do, we talked with Ms. Glanville, who is the chair of our facilities, School Choice and Facilities Committee meeting. And as a committee, we decided that we would entertain you submitting some of your suggestions. And I know that some may have been submitted to Dr. Clone Rivas already. But we are going to plan another session, and I want to be in full transparency. Another session for the steering committee and any interested parties in December. Who's going to be able to come? I want to make sure with me.
We'll be there.
Everyone.
All right.
Okay, so everyone will have an opportunity to participate. We will give you a date. We just want to check in with the state before we give you a date that's very aggressive. So if we can wait, until maybe mid-December as opposed to like tomorrow, we will do that. So, and we will send that information to the steering committee and give you some time to distribute the information to all stakeholders, parents, students, families, or everyone interested, community, friends, cousins, TT, everyone can come out and support this project. So then after that, because I just want to be transparent about the process, we will submit those design specifications for a read to members of the Board of Education, to Ms. Glanville first, because she is the chair of that committee, and we will send that information out, and then we will give the board an opportunity to look at the design specifications prior to board vote. So everyone will have an opportunity. So people said, I know lots of questions. Do we have to have one principal? Can we have an executive principal? Is the state going to say that we need this, we need that? We need to submit that information, and for clarity around that one question about, do we have to have 3 principals, or can we have an executive principal? That is a district level decision, the principal piece of this. So the board can make a decision with your influence as to whether they'd like to have an executive principal. It's usually like a management decision. So the board approves the principal or an executive principal, but if you want to propose that, not for Kinsella, but for
JMA and high school A.
come on, or for JMA and
High school A.
okay. So we will talk to the appropriate partners and everyone else, but we want your best thinking. We need the collective geniuses of everyone in the room for this proposal. Yes, ma'am.
How is the application process? So would they still have to apply for strictly JMA or strictly high school?
So the design, you want to talk about in more detail about the design specifications and what we need to include? Include in the application process. Yes. Yeah, can you just give 3 highlighted points? It's really short and simple about.
So it all depends. If we definitely decide to move in with High School Inc. and Journalism and Media Academy as a weaver, then that means that would include 1 transcript, which has been the question also that the committee has actually posed before. And then the applications through the choice will be for the weaver school. So students will apply directly into one school, and within that school, then they will have the opportunity, because what I'm hearing from the different work groups is that although we want the one weaver, we also want to capture the themes, both journalism and media, right, and high school Inc. So the finance portion and the media portion of both schools. So I think that, they'll come into one, and from there, then they'll give the opportunity to actually be in what we will call, and you will call, a comprehensive high school.
So yeah, can you, the question about, I'm sorry, the question about one executive principal, right? Can you explain why is Kinsella separate from the executive principal model?
So right now, because it's its own separate school, it could possibly have an executive principal and 2 assistant principals or a dean or what have you. So there could be a configuration, but we have not made that determination just yet. But I want to make sure we knew that Kinsella was still its own school.
So I'm thinking Weaver as a school, 1 executive principal, and if the JMA high school Inc. portion comes together, that's a principal there, and Kinsella has their high school component principal. That's what I'm thinking. So I don't
Make sure people hear his.
He asked about an executive principal, and can you have 2 principals separate and an executive principal? Is that the question?
Yes.
Okay, so possibly, yes. However, it depends, and that's why I don't want to commit to it right now, because a lot of factors come into play. And some financial factors come into play. So, yes, we could have an executive principal, an assistant principal, and a dean. And the other 2 schools, or 1 school, could not have a principal, but have just 1 executive principal who could possibly oversee Kinsella, the other 2 academies within the school. Does that answer your question?
So it is possible.
It's possible, but
There's no legal ramification that prohibits that from happening.
it is a management and board decision.
Because in the past, as part of the work group, part of the committee, we was told it was not possible.
Well, there were 3 separate, this is why it's been a critical juncture, because we have to change. What the board approved was 3 separate schools, 3 separate principals previously. But now we have to go back to the board with the new design specifications. So now a lot of things are possible because they have to vote again. So that's why I said this is a critical juncture to submit what you'd like to see in the school for consideration. But ultimately, I work for them, and they make the decision.
Tara, I saw your hand and then
And
your
for you,
hand.
yes.
Okay. Tara, and then.
Oh, sorry.
My question is going back to the whole state funding for technical career paths. That's my first time hearing about that, with the additional funding. And so does that mean that in the design specs, or even maybe down the road, that we as a school would be more open to other career paths coming into the school, not just the journalism and not just the IFS?
Okay, the question is, given that we have an opportunity to include some CTE courses, technical courses, is this a time that we can add some additional CTE courses or pathways?
Yes.
So, yes. Okay. So I thought, and I apologize, I think that was captured in some of the work group work around possible funding additional for CTE. No? Okay, so we'll then let me have Dr. Colon Rivas explain. Okay, well, there's a possibility with the state that we may be able to add some additional courses to the and that's why I didn't want to say what the categories they fall under, because I didn't want us to get into saying, now I want this back. So, because I don't want to, sometimes you walk away, we walk away, we're like, oh shoot, I can have that. So we have our academic team, who are experts in CTE courses, who are going to assist us, and they're on the in-school and out-of-schools work group. So these kinds of questions and ideas should have been, and I have to take responsibility as the leader, if that was not raised in these sessions, I apologize, because that was the charge that I gave the team. So yes.
What is CTE, Connecticut Technical Education?
Yes, Connecticut Technical Education, thank you. I know we use all these acronyms and all stuff like that. So yes, so we may be able to add certain things. Like I'll use one example. I'm scared, but for example, automotive courses. Buckley High School, they receive funding, additional funding, because they offer an auto mechanic type course. That's an example of a CTE course. That's a safe one. Okay? Okay. So that, for something like that. So that's why we want to go back to you. Have you had some influence on the types of things? Now remember, Kim did a great job of showing us the building. We can't now create something that's going to require $30 million more on the building, because that's not happening. Okay, so we just put that out. Don't get too excited. Okay, yes.
Wait, actually,
Ms. Tracy?
she had her hand up first, yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm on the same page. So you're saying, although it's Kinsella School, and they said they have dropped. So am I Weaver? So they won't be able to utilize that when you're going to have a scheduling?
They will be able to utilize those facilities. There's some limitations on how many courses that students who are not in the magnet school can take in the magnet school, but yes, students will have access to that room. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
All right, so as a Weaver graduate, I know Weaver High School as Weaver High School, but I'm starting to hear the Weaver campus terminology. Is there a reason why we're not calling it Weaver High School as opposed to, when did the change from Weaver High School happen to Weaver campus?
Well, if you go back, I know to even back to last year, our brochures, and maybe you and some people did not attend the meeting, but we've been calling it the campus all along, just because we knew that there were 3 separate schools at that time. So we used that terminology so that we wouldn't get into this school, that school. It's the campus, and we kind of looked at using a university lens, like so, you know, the Hart School is still part of UHart, but they have their own separate name. That's probably a good example because I don't know a lot about that institution. But for example, Columbia University, there's a teacher's college. It's still Columbia University, but teacher's college has its own president, but it's still part of the major university. Union Theological, part of Columbia University, still has its own president, still part of Columbia University.
From 2019, it's referred to as Weaver High School, so that I can be proud to go back and then do some volunteer work. So it's going to be Weaver High School?
You're going to, and everyone here is going to submit your recommendations in the proposal.
Yes.
It's going to go to the facilities committee. The facilities committee is going to present it to the full board, and the full board of education for Hartford Public Schools will make that determination. And that's as transparent as I can be, because that's the process. I can't tell you yes tonight because I don't make that ultimate decision.
Dr. Burks, this young lady has had her hand
sorry.
up, one of our youngest,
Yes, ma'am.
no, Our young,
Ms.
white
Ms.
and
Glanville?
green, yes.
Yes. I hear you. Sports. Well, we're hoping that we can offer all the sports that we currently offer, so I don't know every single one, but basketball, football, and maybe some other things, so not sure right now. But many of the major sports we will offer. It's a long process. I don't want to give you all the boring parts of this, but we have to talk to the state, and there's this interscholastic league, and so, but I'm gonna give you a short version. You can have our commitment. We're gonna try to offer all the great sports that you like. What sports do you like?
Swimming. Track. Swimming, track.
Track. You have a lot of fans, a lot of people supporting you, especially that track in this room. So thank you.
Okay, the lady in the red.
Yes, ma'am.
Stellar experience for the students, but a lot of times we need to bring the parents along in the process. Has any consideration under this new model, whatever it's going to be, been given to some consideration of opportunities for adults, the parents in the community, to participate in the new educational process? That's what I'm trying to say.
Ms. Depot is sitting right here, and Ms. Cruz back there, who's on my team, they'd be happy to take your name and every parent in this community and have you become a part of this process. Don't let her leave.
Please don't.
Okay? We want you to invite people from your church, from wherever you, all your organizations that you're a part of. You can be a part of this process.
But is there also an opportunity for the parents and the adults of the community to go and learn, even if it's just the technology? A lot of people want to learn how to, understand computers and manage computers. So there might be a course just for the parents at the school. Now, I'm just saying, it helps to reduce barriers, because the more parents know, the more they're familiar with the building, a facility, it increases their, it just helps to improve their feeling about a place, about the quality of education. And it's bringing them along in the process. And sometimes when we just plan for one segment of the population and not another, I'm just throwing that out there.
Yes, and there's been lots of discussion about this being a state-of-the-art facility for the community, this being a community hub to offer all types of resources and services. And let me tell you, especially around the athletics, we've had lots of conversations about that, but I agree with you in looking at some of the other components, and I'm not really sure what agencies. I know Mr. Depot has some thoughts, and she's gonna come chat with you as well. And I know there's great organizations in the city, particularly the women of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and others that want to be a part of supporting moving forward. Yes, ma'am.
And the gentleman will be the last one.
Also to be used after hours for lifelong learners, and I think that it's a missed opportunity if we don't expand it beyond the traditional school.
I agree, and we need to include that in the design specifications as we write things. So I agree with you. Mr. Glenville, did you have a question?
I had a question. You mentioned the shared spaces, that we talked about. Every school will have an opportunity to use them within a certain curriculum. My question is, will the students across from magnet, non-magnet, will they share the experience together? Because I think that can create a certain kind of tension, right? If certain students are allowed to have this, and even though, yes, there's programmatic focuses, foci, I guess is the way, foci, I want to know, how will that play between the students from the different, with the magnets and the non-magnets?
And I'm glad that you raised that. So this is why we designed the work groups, so that we have a lot of time now to get people ready to co-locate, ready to work together, since they're working as 3 separate entities right now. So there's going to be a lot of work happening within those work groups to prepare people in preparation to be there. And we want to try to even diminish the inequities, because that was raised as well, that some schools have more resources, different partners. So this is a critical juncture for us as a community to begin to work together to make sure there isn't disparity. So we are aware of that, but we need to design the structures around it. Yes, and this is the last question Ms. Vicki told me, and then we're gonna close officially, because it's 7:15.
I think we're gonna have to ask,
Yes,
let her
ma'am.
ask, yes.
I need to leave here, I want to leave here with a clear vision of the Weaver campus. When you said raise hand earlier, who was part of that first planning, I was part of that. But due to my studies, I had to drop out. But I want to leave here tonight with a clear vision of what the campus is going to be like. I know there are 3 schools going in there. But what I gather from you, or what I understand from you, is that for Weaver itself, there's nothing in place. Is that clear?
At the current moment, we have 3 schools. And right now, you have an opportunity to influence the new design specifications in order to possibly change that narrative. But today, the board voted, and there are 3 schools. The board has to vote again, and what they vote on will be influenced by what we write. Am I right, Ms. Blanton? Okay, thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, give her a hand, please. And give yourself a hand, too. Excellent questions, very thought-provoking. Yes, definitely. This is I think this is just historical. The opportunity that is presented to each one of us to have a voice, to have a say, and what Weaver High School looks like. So I'm gonna ask, we're gonna be closing because we told you we would get you out at 7:15. I'm gonna ask Shoshana, Jason, Donna, I don't know if Abigail's still here, Paul, if you all can stand, because these are the individuals you wanna talk to right after we dismiss, so that you can find out about how do you get involved, how do you get your thoughts captured on paper and be part of that proposal that goes to the Hartford Public Schools. So again, these are the individuals you want to see. As far as next steps, that's the next steps, to actually talk to them.
There's a survey.
We do have a survey that you received. Donna gave everybody a survey. Make sure you complete that survey and give it to one of these individuals if you don't see Donna. Thank you so much for coming out. You're going to hear more about the community forums as we move forward. Look at Weaver2019.com as well. Thank you so much and have a great evening. There's more snacks in the back, more water. Help yourself.
My name is J. Stan McCauley, and I do business as Light Source Productions. I provide professional services in the area of strategic video communications. First, what we do is we help you craft your message using what I call the rule of the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. We do event documentation, content acquisition, full-scale productions, editing, and of course distribution through our social media television network. And with social media, video is more important now than it has ever been. Whether you're talking big business, small business, nonprofit, church, or just an individual. Let's say you're planning an event, a wedding, whatever the case may be. But let's say a big event, but no video. You spent all this time, all these hours to put this event on, and maybe 100, 200 people attend the event. But more important than that is that thousands could attend by watching it on social media. But of course, you don't think about this until after the event is over. You can't afford not to capture it for social media. And despite what people think, I am affordable. Give me a call. Let's plan your next video project and share it with the world on my social media television network. I promise you that you will have the attention of one person, me.